Welcome to Ancient Atoms Awakened. I'm honored that you've chosen to join us for this exploration into the ancient history of chakras, energy centers that have been recognized by spiritual traditions for thousands of years. In this journey, we'll travel back through time to discover the origins, development, and cross-cultural understanding of these powerful energy centers. We'll uncover archaeological evidence, examine ancient texts, and connect these historical insights to our modern understanding of subtle energy. The concept of chakras, spinning wheels of energy located along the central channel of the body, has roots that extend much further back in human history than many people realize. While the term chakra comes from Sanskrit, the recognition of these energy centers appeared across multiple ancient civilizations, often independently of one another. The earliest archaeological evidence suggesting awareness of energy centers in the human body dates back to approximately 4000 to 3000 BCE. In the ancient Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's earliest urban cultures, excavations have revealed meditation seals and figurines in seated postures with markings at specific points along the spine. These markings correspond to what we now identify as chakra locations. These figurines, discovered at sites like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa in modern-day Pakistan, show individuals in meditative poses with distinct symbols marking the forehead, throat, heart, and lower centers. Similar archaeological findings from ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt reveal comparable understandings of energy centers within the body, though they used different terminology and symbolic systems. In ancient Egypt, between 3000 to 1500 BCE, the concept of energy centers was connected to specific deities, who governed different aspects of consciousness and bodily function. The Egyptians conceptualized these centers through their understanding of the Ka, life force, and Ba, soul, with various points along the spine recognized as gateways for divine energy. Wall paintings in temples and tombs show figures with markings at the base of the spine, the solar plexus, the heart, and the third eye region, remarkably similar to later chakra mappings. While evidence for chakra awareness exists in multiple ancient cultures, the most systematic development of chakra understanding emerged in the Vedic and later Tantric traditions of ancient India. The formal concept of chakras as we recognize them today began taking shape between 1500 to 500 BCE in the Upanishads, particularly the Chandogya Upanishad, which references energy centers along the subtle body. However, it was during the Tantric period, approximately 500 to 1000 CE, that the chakra system became more extensively codified, particularly in texts like the Satchakra Nirupana and the Padaka Pankaka. These texts outlined the 7 primary chakras that are commonly recognized today: Muladhara, root; Svadhisthana, sacral; Manipura, solar plexus; Anahata, heart; Vishuddha, throat; Agnya, third eye; and Sahasrara, crown. What's remarkable about this development is that earlier archaeological evidence suggests awareness of these energy centers existed long before their formal documentation. This suggests that the Tantric texts were not inventing a new system, but rather documenting and systematizing ancient experiential knowledge that had been passed down through generations of practitioners. Each chakra was associated with specific attributes: a particular location in the body, a corresponding element, earth, water, fire, air, ether, a specific color and sound vibration. Each chakra also had a unique geometric shape, yantra, a seed syllable, bija mantra, and various psychological and spiritual qualities. The tantric practitioners developed sophisticated methods for working with these energy centers, including visualization techniques, mantras, mudras, hand gestures, and specific breathing practices designed to activate and balance the chakras. These practices were considered so powerful that they were often kept secret, shared only with initiated disciples who had proven their readiness. While the most well-known chakra system comes from the Indian traditions, similar concepts appeared in numerous ancient cultures around the world, often with striking similarities despite their geographical separation. In ancient China, the Taoist tradition developed a system of energy centers called dantian, elixir fields. The three primary dantian, lower, middle, and upper, correspond roughly to the lower chakras, heart chakra, and third eye crown chakras in the Indian system. Taoist alchemical texts dating back to around 400 to 200 BC describe these energy centers and techniques for cultivating and directing key, life force energy through them. The ancient Chinese understood the lower dantian located below the navel as the foundation for vitality and physical power, remarkably similar to the Indian understanding of the lower chakras. The middle dantian heart region was seen as the center for compassion and balanced emotions, paralleling the heart chakra. And the upper dantian, between the eyebrows and top of the head, was recognized as the seat of spiritual consciousness and connection to higher realms, matching the function of the third eye and crown chakras. In ancient Mayan civilization, 2000 BCE to 1500 CE, their understanding of the human energy body included 7 primary centers aligned with the spine. Carvings and codices depict these centers as flowering structures, with each associated with specific qualities and divine forces. The Mayan shamans worked with these energy centers through sound, movement, and plant medicines to facilitate healing and spiritual awakening. Ancient Persian traditions, particularly early Zoroastrianism, 1500 to 500 BCE, recognized 7 energy centers called Ka, each associated with specific angelic beings and divine qualities. These were seen as the connection points between the physical body and the spiritual realms. In ancient Egypt, beyond the early evidence I mentioned, the later mystery schools, 1500 to 300 BCE, developed sophisticated practices involving energy centers along the spine. They associated these centers with specific deities and cosmic principles. The staff of Osiris and the caduceus symbol, later adopted by the Greeks, may have represented the awakened Kundalini energy rising through these centers. What's most fascinating about these cross-cultural understandings is not just their similarities in location and function, but the common experiential discoveries they represent. Practitioners in vastly different cultures, working with different cosmologies and terminology, consistently identified the same energy centers through their direct experience of consciousness and subtle energy. This suggests that chakras are not merely cultural constructs, but rather reflect objective aspects of our energetic anatomy that can be perceived through refined awareness. Ancient practitioners mapped chakras based on their inner experiences, but what's remarkable is how these energy centers correspond to important physical structures within the body. These correlations were intuited by ancient seers thousands of years before modern anatomy confirmed these relationships. The root chakra, Muladhara, corresponds to the base of the spine, where the nerve plexus governing the legs, feet, and excretory organs is located. This chakra's association with survival, stability, and the adrenal glands which produce our fight-or-flight hormones, shows an intuitive understanding of this region's role in our basic security. The sacral chakra Svadhisthana aligns with the sacral plexus and reproductive organs, reflecting its association with creativity, sexuality, and emotional fluidity. The solar plexus chakra, Manipura, corresponds to the celiac plexus, sometimes called the abdominal brain, which contains the largest collection of nerve cells outside the central nervous system and governs digestive functions. This reflects the solar plexus chakra's association with personal power, transformation, and metabolism. The heart chakra Anahata aligns with the cardiac plexus and thymus gland. Modern neurocardiology has discovered that the heart contains its own complex nervous system with over 40,000 neurons, a heart brain that can function independently of the cranial brain. This validates the ancient understanding of the heart as an intelligent center of consciousness, capable of processing information and exhibiting memory. The throat chakra, Vishuddha, corresponds to the pharyngeal and laryngeal plexuses and the thyroid gland, which regulates metabolism and growth, reflecting this chakra's association with expression, communication, and manifestation. The third eye chakra, Agnya, aligns with the pineal and pituitary glands, the master regulators of the endocrine system. Modern research has shown that the pineal gland is photosensitive and produces melatonin and potentially DMT, dimethyltryptamine, chemicals associated with altered states of consciousness and visionary experiences. The crown chakra, Sahasrara, corresponds to the central nervous system as a whole, and particularly the upper brain, including the thalamus, hypothalamus, and cerebral cortex. These regions are responsible for our highest cognitive functions and consciousness itself. These correlations suggest that ancient practitioners were perceiving real, energetic phenomena associated with the body's neural and endocrine systems. What they described as wheels of energy might be understood today as the electromagnetic fields generated by these major nerve plexuses and glands, fields that modern instruments can now detect and measure. Today, various scientific fields, from biofield research to neuroscience, are beginning to provide frameworks for understanding the bioenergetic systems that ancient traditions identified as chakras. Research in bioelectromagnetics has found that the body generates multiple electromagnetic fields of varying frequencies, with particularly strong fields in the regions traditionally associated with chakras. The understanding of chakras has evolved over thousands of years, adapting to different cultural contexts while maintaining core insights about these energy centers. In the early periods, 4000 to 1500 BCE, evidence suggests that chakra awareness was primarily experiential and practical, focused on energy cultivation for vitality, healing, and expanded awareness. The transmission of this knowledge was largely oral, passed from teacher to student through direct experience. During the classical period in India, 500 BCE to 500 CE, the understanding of chakras became more codified, with specific philosophical frameworks developing around them. The chakras were increasingly connected to cosmological principles, with each center seen as a microcosm reflecting aspects of the macrocosm. In the Tantric period, 500 to 1500 CE, chakra practices became more sophisticated and systematic. Detailed visualization practices, specific mantras for each center, and techniques for awakening Kundalini energy were developed and refined. This period produced many of the classical texts and images of chakras that are still referenced today. During the medieval period, As trade and cultural exchange increased between East and West, chakra concepts began influencing Western esoteric traditions. Elements of chakra understanding appeared in alchemy, Hermetic traditions, and some mystic Christian practices, though often translated into different symbolic systems. The modern era, 1900 to present, has seen both the globalization of chakra knowledge and its scientific investigation. Western researchers like Carl Jung, who studied Eastern spiritual traditions, helped introduce chakra concepts to Western psychology, viewing them as symbols of psychological development and integration. Contemporary approaches to chakras span from traditional yogic practices to energy healing modalities like Reiki, from psychological frameworks to scientific research. What remains consistent across these diverse approaches is the recognition of the chakras as focal points for consciousness, energy, and transformation. Throughout this evolution, the most important aspect of chakra understanding has remained experiential rather than theoretical. Across cultures and times, the power of chakra work has always been in its practical application. The direct experience of these energy centers and their effects on consciousness, health, and spiritual development. Ancient civilizations developed sophisticated techniques for working with the chakras, many of which remain remarkably effective today. These methods weren't merely theoretical, they were practical technologies for energy cultivation, healing, and consciousness expansion. One of the oldest chakra practices, found across multiple ancient traditions, involves breath control. In the Vedic tradition, specific pranayama techniques were developed for each chakra. For example, Bhastrika, called bellows breath, was used to activate the solar plexus chakra, while Saktelai, cooling breath, helped balance the Manipura's fiery energy. Similar breath practices were used to direct energy to specific centers. Sound was another powerful tool used by ancient practitioners. The discovery and use of seed syllables, bija mantras, for each chakra shows a sophisticated understanding of how specific sound vibrations could resonate with and activate particular energy centers. These sounds weren't arbitrary. They were discovered through deep meditative states where practitioners could perceive the natural sound signature of each chakra. Visualization techniques formed another pillar of ancient chakra work. Practitioners would visualize specific colors, symbols, and deities associated with each center. These weren't merely imaginative exercises, but rather tools for directing awareness and energy to particular focal points in the subtle body. Ancient temples often contained imagery, specifically designed to facilitate these visualizations, with architectural features aligned to support energetic activation. Physical practices, including specific yoga postures and mudras hand gestures, were developed to direct energy to and through the chakras. Archaeological evidence from the Indus Valley civilization shows figures and postures remarkably similar to modern yoga asanas, suggesting these physical techniques have ancient roots. Similarly, depictions of specific mudras appear in ancient art from multiple civilizations, indicating their widespread use for energy direction. Ancient practitioners also recognized the power of natural elements and substances to affect the chakras. Specific gemstones, metals, herbs, and oils were used to balance and activate particular energy centers. These weren't superstitious practices, but reflected a sophisticated understanding of how different materials carry specific vibrational signatures that interact with our energetic systems. What's particularly notable about these ancient techniques is that they were typically integrated rather than isolated. A complete chakra practice might involve specific breathing patterns, visualizations, sounds, movements, and supportive substances, all working together to create powerful shifts in energy and consciousness. This holistic approach reflects the ancient understanding that human beings are integrated systems where physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritual dimensions continually influence one another. Today, the ancient wisdom of the chakra system offers profound tools for navigating our modern challenges. Far from being relics of the past, these energy centers provide a practical framework for understanding and transforming our most pressing personal and collective issues. The root chakras focus on stability, safety, and belonging, addresses our modern epidemic of anxiety and disconnection from the natural world. Ancient practices for grounding and embodiment offer antidotes to the increasing virtualization of our lives and the constant activation of our stress responses. The sacral chakra's wisdom about healthy emotional flow and authentic expression provides balance to the repression and extremes that characterize much of our relationship to emotions, pleasure, and creativity. Ancient techniques for working with this center help restore the natural rhythms and flows that technological living often disrupts. The solar plexus chakras focus on personal power, boundaries, and transformative action, offers guidance for navigating complex power dynamics and finding our authentic agency in systems that often diminish individual sovereignty. Ancient practices for strengthening this center help counteract modern tendencies toward either passivity or domination. The heart chakra's capacity for integration, compassion, and connection provides essential medicine for a world often characterized by polarization and isolation. Ancient heart-centered practices offer pathways to the empathy and understanding needed to bridge our divisions. The throat chakra's emphasis on truth, authentic expression, and manifestation through sound addresses our modern challenges around information overload, misinformation, and the devaluation of true communication. Ancient practices for this center help us find our authentic voice amidst the noise. The third eye chakra's development of clear seeing, intuition, and discernment offers crucial tools for navigating our complex information landscape and recovering our innate capacity for wisdom. Ancient practices for this center help us distinguish between truth and delusion in increasingly sophisticated information environments. The crown chakra's connection to higher awareness, universal consciousness, and transcendent understanding provides much needed perspective in times of rapid change and uncertainty. Ancient practices for this center help us access the expanded awareness needed to see beyond the limitations of our current paradigms. As we move forward in our exploration of the chakras through the activation series, we'll be working with these energy centers as living technologies, practical tools for transformation that have stood the test of time precisely because they address aspects of human experience that remain constant regardless of era or culture. As we conclude our journey through the ancient history of chakras, I invite you to take a moment to honor the lineage of seekers, practitioners, and teachers who discovered, preserved, and transmitted this wisdom across millennia. Their dedication to exploring the subtle dimensions of human experience has gifted us with practical technologies for transformation that remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. In our upcoming Chakra Activation series, we'll work directly with these energy centers using techniques that combine ancient wisdom with modern understanding, creating a bridge across time that honors both traditional knowledge and contemporary context. Before we close, Let's affirm our connection to this ancient wisdom with a few statements that acknowledge the timeless nature of chakra understanding. Allow these affirmations to resonate within you. I honor the ancient origins of chakra wisdom and its evolution across cultures and time. My body carries the same energy centers that ancient seers and practitioners discovered through their inner explorations. I recognize that the chakra system reflects universal aspects of human energy and consciousness. I appreciate how modern understanding can complement and enhance ancient wisdom about these sacred centers. My journey with the chakras connects me to a lineage of seekers spanning thousands of years. I am open to experiencing the chakras directly, just as practitioners have done throughout history. The ancient technologies for working with subtle energy remain powerful tools for modern transformation. I honor both the cultural specificity and universal truths reflected in diverse chakra traditions. My exploration of these energy centers bridges past and present, uniting ancient wisdom with contemporary needs. I am grateful for the preservation and transmission of this profound knowledge across generations. I am ancient atoms awakened. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the ancient history of chakras. In our next video, we'll begin our journey through the sacred breathing techniques that will prepare us for the full chakra activation series. Until we meet again, may you feel the wisdom of the ancients alive within your own energetic system. Ancient atoms awakened, where ancient wisdom meets modern awakening.